I have played a lot of PvP, I think yesterday, and reached kinda high rankings. And sometimes, even though it's weird, and some jobs might still be targets of being tuned in the next couple of weeks. Okay, so Holy Priest. I would put it into B tier because it's not too bad. It has powerful heal output. It has the Spirit of Redemption legendary effect still that you could get in Shadowlands, that once you die and turn into the Spirit of Redemption, you're still alive. You can survive after this and play afterwards, which is, in my opinion, still one of the craziest skills to have. But I could ignore a Holy Priest, crowd control the Holy Priest, and the healing is not so unavoidable anymore like it was in Shadowlands. In Shadowlands, I felt like the Holy Priest could be not a target, could not be killed, and could not really be crowd controlled by anything. So in my opinion, it's a downgrade from Shadowlands, because in Shadowlands last season it was insanely overpowered. But right now it doesn't compare to a heal Druid, Resto Shaman. I think even the Mistweaver Monk, even though it doesn't reach the higher ranks, because I think on the higher ranks it's just too much damage for Mistweaver to handle for a longer period. But Holy is still in comparison a bit lower. But correct me if I'm completely wrong here. I haven't seen much Holy Priest so far, maybe 3 or 4 that we basically destroyed, so it's really a bit hard to tell. But I would say it's weaker than the other healers are. I think to keep up with the topic, let's put the Druid into A, because I think Druid could be one of the most powerful healers right now, has so much utility, so much healing output. The Tranquility effect is still completely insane. Like, it avoids so much damage. You can't crowd control the Druid in that moment. You can use that to not getting feared or not getting stunned or anything like that. It's still healing a lot. And the HOTS are getting in crazy amounts of healing output right now, HPS output. Okay, so yeah, when sticking with the healers, I would say the Preservation Evoker is S tier. This is by far the strongest healer right now. I don't see any downside of playing this spec when you want to be the healer. You have so much anti-crowd control available. Like, I think the Shroud, however it's called, gives you 3 immunities against crowd control. That's insane. And you have this flying attack that's also making you invulnerable against crowd control. You don't have to cast anything. It's crazy. It's the most powerful spec so far. We had the most issues fighting against these healers. I didn't see them to be a target. Like, I played with a Windwalker Monk. My friend is really good at sniping healers, and he was not able to do that and achieve that on this healer. This is definitely the strongest healer that you can choose right now. Discipline Priest, I'm not sure. I have seen very, very good Discipline Priest, but the overall Discipline Priest is really bad. I would say it can be destroyed easily, but if handled correctly, especially in 2v2, I think Discipline Priest is quite decent, especially with a Rogue. Rogue and Discipline is always a good synergy and harmony, so you should definitely be able to get to a good solid ranking with a Discipline Priest. It's very aggressive. Don't expect the biggest healing output. It's more like you get passive healing for dealing damage. You have the new specs where you can enhance your smite very, very heavily and then go full in with the penance that throws out at least, I think, 8 bolts or more than that. That's really burst damage. Yesterday, a Discipline Priest just bursted me down. So I think Discipline Priest in 2v2 would be 8 here. But overall, because in 3v3, Discipline Priest is always a bit bad because you really don't have the heal output that the others have. Especially with looking at the damage that you have to heal off. It's a bit too much for Discipline Priest. I don't know. Overall, I would say B, because 3s it's C, and in 2s it could be A. Sticking with healers, Resto Shaman is definitely A. Has so much utility, has still one of the best crowd control with the totems, has so much preservation skills, like you don't even let the threat become a threat. So that's really powerful, and still have the totem. The totem is amazing because, yeah, you split the HP among your targets, among your teammates, and then you heal up all of them together with chain heal, and powerful. It's mobile. It's not killable very quickly. You can't kill a Resto Shaman quickly. I would say it's a solid A rank in 2v2 and 3v3 combat. Okay, what healer specs do we have? Oh yeah, Mistweaver. Mistweaver Monk is decent when you're on low ranking and damage is not too much. So Mistweaver is amazing against all that jobs that deal consistent damage and want to lock you down with getting out of mana or want to lock you down by CC chains. It's really good. It's just very powerful. And it's mobile. It can do something against crowd control, but has one issue that most of the other healers don't have. It has to cast. That makes him prone, or makes the Mistweaver prone to crowd control in regards of being kicked, being interrupted and all that stuff. And then I think the heal output is not on par with the competition here. So I would place it where the healer specs of Priest are right now. It's very early. It's a very early tier list, so these are just bold guesses, and yeah, mixing up with my experience that I have gathered right now in solo shuffle mostly, but also in 2v2 with my mate here. And I think solo shuffle can be applied to the 3v3, even though there are some mild differences as well. Okay, I don't know about the Paladin though, because I really dislike the Holy Paladin since, I guess, Legion. How whenever they put in the combo point system to the Holy Paladin, that's where I started to dislike the Paladin. So far, I have seen Holy Paladin being too squishy against a Shadow Priest. Shadow Priest destroys Holy Paladins because of the instant mass dispel, and I think every caster, every setup with a Priest destroys a Holy Paladin because of how reliant the Holy Paladin is to the bubble, and it gets destroyed instantly. You really can't do anything about that. And once you can't rely on your bubble, I think Holy Paladin is the most squishy healer around. But I'm not completely sure if it's an actual C tier here. I think in 2v2 there could be some very decent combos with Warrior, for example. I don't know. It's really hard to tell. I would give it a B tier. I mean, it's WoW. You can be toxic and just throw it in F tier. That's what I don't want to do. I was never toxic in WoW. I was angry. I was furious. I was getting excited about stuff, but never toxic. So I always try to bring the Final Fantasy XIV spirit to WoW, and it's hard if you play a Prot Paladin. Being a Prot Paladin makes people mad. I actually don't know why, but it's a fact. Okay, so easy things first. This is everything here is D tier. All the tank specs that can't really heal other players are D tier because there's no reason to play them over a DPS job that is just tanky. So there's really no real reason to play any of these except the Protection Paladin. But I would put it to C tier because right now it's just a gimmick to play around with it because every other healer is way better. Protection Paladin can heal and can get the thing done to, I think, 1,600 ranking or 1,800 ranking. But above that, you're kinda down. You can't compete with the other healers. You can't match the healing. You can't hold up against the incoming damage anymore or for a longer time. So that's where Protection Paladin falls short very quickly. But for solo shuffle, it's not bad because you're matched up with other Protection Paladins or against other Protection Paladins. So you're playing in your own certain bracket of Protection Paladins. And, oh yeah, by the way, sorry, Guardian Druid. Even though there was a bug that Guardian Druid was insanely overpowered, it's not there anymore. They buffed it to, nerfed it to the ground. And I would say still the same problem applies here like on the other tanks. You can't really heal other targets. So if you're not able to 1v2 anybody in 2v2 arena, yeah, you're really not a good contribution. But tanks shouldn't be at rated PvP. Yeah, I actually agree with that because it's weird. It's weird. I still think it had the potential. In Shadowlands, I think Prot Paladin was kind of balanced, actually. It was a very aggressive healer that could easily be killed and be handled. So, yeah, nothing different than a Discipline Priest, for example. Not very much different. Okay, so A Frost Decay, I would say Frost Decay, I haven't seen many Frost Decays. There's something wrong with it. There's something wrong with it. They are not dealing enough damage, I think. And they still have the problems of a decay, that's the mobility aspect. It's tanky, it's strong, it's very resistant against stun and all that stuff. Has good self-heal, but yeah, Unholy is just a better choice. I'm not sure if Unholy is S tier. So far, we could beat a lot of Unholies already, but I would say A tier. It's a very, very strong DPS choice, and it's so much better than the Frost Decays. There's so much chaos with all the pets you have. You can sacrifice them. You can heal yourself. You have all the barriers. It's amazing, especially when you play against casters that might be stronger against a warrior in certain aspects, or a rogue, for example, and you can just close that gap. True, someone said 90% of the players don't want tanks in rated PvP, and the other 10% are the tank players. Yeah, I can understand that. Tanks are kind of annoying to deal with because they're another oddity that you have to balance out, and it could actually be avoided by Blizzard saying, hey, no tanks allowed. You can't queue with a tank spec. But I think they don't want to force this or push this out because there are players that really play only one spec. They live this spec. So if they can't play PvP with this spec and they are a Guardian Druid or a Blood Decay, whatever, they will hate the game. So I understand why they prefer being able to participate, even though it might not be a good choice to play. The Protection Paladin, it's easy to solve the problem. Just let Word of Glory not be healing other players and you're fine. If Prot Paladins can't heal other players with Word of Glory, this spec is instantly here. Instant. It's not even, yeah, thought about this. Okay, Havoc Demon Hunter is, in my opinion, if played correctly, and even if not played correctly, it's so powerful right now. It needs to be nerfed. It needs to be nerfed because you can just queue up for solo queue and destroy the enemy team with your cleave damage. All the problems that the Havoc Demon Hunter had in Shadowlands, like you don't have a slow. You now have a slow because your glaive throw ability can slow targets. You have self-healing with the demon that you can sacrifice. It's just too powerful. And the burst damage is insane. Passive damage is insane. You're having so many sources where damage comes from a Havoc Demon Hunter, so it's crazy. This one is tough. This one is tough. I haven't played against a lot balanced druids, and I do think the ones I have played against, they were just falling behind in damage. There's something with how the damage is applied in PvP. It's not working very nicely, and Convoke the Spirits doesn't deal that damage anymore that it did in Shadowlands, especially on the start of Shadowlands where it just vaporized people. I would place it right here because that's basically my... I don't really know about these because I haven't played against them so many times, but it's an indication though. Feral Druid, it's decent. I would say B tier because it has survivability, has good burst, sustain damage, good defensives, but I think it lacks on the crowd control department compared to the rogue or the casters. So Feral, I think it's decent. It's okay. You can definitely reach high ranks with the Feral Druid, I guess, but nothing that really stood out to me. And yeah, of course, this one is just so powerful right now. The Evoker can avoid so much crowd control and deals so much damage, but it's beatable. I think if we would have S tier plus and S tier minus, I would say that Evoker is still a bit less powerful than a Havoc Demon Hunter, but it has so much potential. The crowd control immunity and the flying attacks and the burst damage, it's insane, especially in 3v3 where you can really vaporize the enemy team. But they are kinda squishy once you get them, so there's always a good chance if you're playing a solid combo with a rogue or a monk or demon hunter even, that you just burst down the Evoker very quickly. Okay, so Beastmaster Hunter. I would say it's also B because it's a bit better than the Survival Hunter. Survival Hunter seems to be lacking right now. I would say Beastmaster has consistent damage, you can really rely on your pet damage more. So I guess that makes the Beastmaster Hunter a solid choice. You have traps, and yeah, it makes your pets still fear immune, which is good against Warlocks, which are kind of the meta somehow. Survival, on the other hand, I have seen very good survivals, but it's just the weakest spec of the Hunter right now. Marksman, this could be the best spec for a Hunter, and it's definitely here on the same level that a Death Knight is. Well, because it's the rapid fire buff is just insane. Like, you can even just go behind the pillar and still get vaporized by rapid fire. Rapid fire can deal up to 200,000 damage when you're proccing everything and when you have your cooldowns running and all that stuff. So that's crazy. Marksman Hunter is just the best spec of a Hunter and something that can literally one-shot you. And especially in solo shuffle, you can really kill people very quickly. Further, the Arcane Mage right now might be the best mage spec. I don't know. I haven't played mage for a long time, but I think like the Arcane Mage has everything that the mage can offer, like crowd control, polymorph, and all that stuff, but also deals damage. These specs don't deal that much damage. It might be this. It might be this. Right now, I don't know why. I have seen the rankings. Arcane Mages are way higher than a Frost is, and Fire is really falling behind. There's something about Fire that doesn't work. It might be different in 2v2. In 2v2, it could be like that. Or even that. I've seen good Fire Mages in 2v2, and I think Fire Mage in a combo with a Rogue is still very, very good. But overall, it feels like this is how it looks. Windwalker Monk. In solo shuffle, a Windwalker Monk, in my opinion, is S tier in solo shuffle. But when you look at all the brackets and rated combat, I think it has the same issue like a Feral Druid, but with more damage. Rogue just obliterates a Windwalker Monk, and that's a problem because we have so many rogues, and I guess also the Warrior obliterates a Monk, and that had always been the case for 2 seasons at least, or 3 seasons even, a long time in Shadowlands at least. I have played with a Windwalker in 2v2, and I think that's actually what makes it a bit below it, because I know my friend is playing peak Monk gameplay and peak Monk skill level, but he could not survive. The survivability of Monk is just so far behind what the others have, and that's a big problem for me, because yeah, you can also just play a Fury Warrior. It has the same burst capabilities, but way more selfie, way more surviving capabilities and all that stuff. So that's the problem of Monk, because there just are better choices around. All right, Shadow is straight S tier. Shadow might be the most flexible, most versatile, and most tanky DPS jobs out there. Even though I was getting pushed down and punished for every cast I make, there are certain times when everything flares up and you have the right timing. You can set your fear on the healer and then just push out the Void Eruption or Dark Ascension. You can also play it with Dark Ascension, and then you can nail down the enemy target. You have Mass Dispel against destroying Red Paladins, making Red Paladins a very, very weak choice compared to others because of the Shadow. Basically because of the Shadow. If Holy Priest and Discipline Priest would be higher ranked, Red Paladin would be weaker, actually, which, yeah, of course. Shadow Priest is too strong in 2v2. The healing is overpowered. They need to reduce the healing. Shadow Priest should not be able to use Power Word Life here, actually. Power Word Life can be used as a full healing spell, and the shield is also just too strong, especially when you play it in a DPS combo. Any DPS combo is just better with a Shadow in it. I think Shadow Rogue could be the top 2v2 DPS combo right now. Alright, Retribution Paladin, easy peasy, very good burst damage, insane burst damage actually, but the bubble can be dispelled very quickly, too quickly, by a Shadow, for example. It has some issues against casters, which are still the meta, like a Rogue can easily kill and destroy a Red Paladin. That is a problem, and that's something Blizzard needs to work on, because somehow the paper scissors system doesn't work there. A Red Paladin should destroy a Rogue, not the other way around. And right now I feel like it's that way because of how your stun is magic stun. I guess the stun should be a physical stun. it was a physical stun when we had Fist of Justice. You don't have to worry about the Cloak of Shadows, which is already consuming a lot or absorbing a lot of your magical damage, and then it's not a problem anymore. Here, it's kind of easy. The Assassination Rogue is by far the best rogue right now. They put the emphasis and focus so much on the subtlety nerf that they forgot about this one. Still way too much damage. We discussed that, my mate and I, that rogue is still broken because rogue had always been the crowd control and support job or class. And now they turn it into the I kill one target without breaking a sweat. And while I'm also crowd controlling other targets. And that's definitely a bad design choice. It's too powerful. It should not be able to deal so much damage. I don't know about Subtlety and Outlaw. I would place both of them in B tier because they are so far behind the Assassination Rogue. All of them have Shadow Step now, so Assassination Rogue has all the utility Subtlety Rogue has, all the important stuff that a Subtlety Rogue has. Fury Warrior has so much burst, so much damage, cleaving potential in solo shuffle. It's crazy if you know how to play with a Fury Warrior. You can't die, you can't get crowd controlled, nobody can hang you off, but your damage is insane. So Fury Warrior is my top choice for DPS right now. It might not be the peak ranked, because in ranked it's always like crowd control is everything in the best 100 players bracket. That's all about crowd control, which Fury Warrior is lacking, and of course Demon Hunter is also lacking. But the Spear of Bastions plays well. You can destroy people very, very quickly. Elemental Shaman, I'm not completely sure about that, but I feel like it's just the worst Evoker, in my opinion. But it's still quite strong, especially in solo shuffle. I can't tell about this one. We just had a match where somebody joined and destroyed us. Destroyed me, destroyed the others, and I think he won 5 or 6 matches. I don't know if that's an oddity or if that's the average, if you know how to play the enhancement shaman. I know that in general, shamans are really good with the totems, with lightning lasso. I think every shaman now has access to lightning lasso. Because of the experience we had in solo shuffle, it might be A. It's also very defensive, has so much self-heal, all the tools you need, crowd control, movability. It basically has everything except being super busted, like a Fury Warrior is, for example. From what I've seen, enhancement is A, just it's hard to play well. Yeah, I guess that's a good compromise. That's A, still good potential, but very hard to play. Arcane Mage is also very difficult to play, let's be honest. Playing that job correctly is definitely not easy. Okay, Affliction Warlock, my second best spot on this, but it might actually have a rivalry with the Warrior. I think that's how I would place them, actually. Affliction is just broken. If you know how to play this in solo shuffle, you can destroy a whole team in seconds. It's not as crazy as it is in Shadowlands. In Shadowlands, we would definitely had to make another tier for Affliction alone, like Affliction was here. It was crazy in Shadowlands. But I would also have placed the Holy Priest in the last season of Shadowlands. But right now it's still too strong. You can heal too much. You have so much damage output when lined correctly. It's just crazy. Demonlock is definitely a good choice. It's definitely A tier, but it's much weaker than the Affliction Warlock is. Demonlock can be outplayed by, just attacking the Demonlock. Demonlock has to cast too much, in my opinion. And the same goes for Destruction Warlock. It's still a Warlock, which has so many good traits right now. Too much health, too much self-heal and shields and crowd control. You can just cast Fear over and over and over again. And Chaos Bolts were always like, oh, there's a lock casting Chaos Bolt. I need to hide. I need to hide somewhere. I need to throw a shield. I need to interrupt it, whatever. Now it's like, okay, there are Chaos Balls coming, but in the same time, Affliction Lock deals the same damage with Drain Life. Yeah, I think they can tune that a bit. Chaos Balls need to be the oomph damage. And yeah, Arms Warrior is decent, but I would say it's just the worst Fury Warrior by far. So it's definitely not just one tier below it, but it's definitely 2 tiers below it. Yeah, only Maldiva keeps playing Affliction, my guy. Yeah, Affliction is busted. Definitely busted. You need to know how to deal with it, but that goes for Shadow as well and Invoker as well. These are all difficult specs here. Like, casters are difficult in general. Like, you could see that when you play Solo Shuffle with any of these, you get spanked. You get spanked by all the melee jobs. You get so much spanked. But once you stabilize or your team helps you to sustain damage output and helps you coming back into game, then you're just too powerful. My top choice right now would be a combo of Shadow Priest, Affliction Lock, Preservation Invoker. Or Affliction, Shadow, and Resto Druid or Resto Shaman. These will be top caster cleave combos right now. You could also mix that up with the Evoker, but Evoker is more like dealing much damage quickly and not the sustained difficult damage with a lot of crowd control in it. Then you could also combine all of these with a Rogue. It's also very good. You can chain people down with crowd control finishers and crowd controlling the healer and then killing one target or killing the healer maybe. On the other hand, this one, and this one is a good combo. Like, this is just a brute forcing wall of destruction if you're just throwing it out. But this can play with any healer, I guess. With a Druid, with a Shaman, even with Priest and Paladin, I guess. Because it's just so tanky and so powerful. You're rolling over your enemies, basically. I guess that everything here is viable. And even these are viable, but you need to spend a bit more work to make them viable. So D tier, don't play D tier for PvP. Really, that's my top tip here. If you can kill 2 players as a Guardian Druid still, maybe that would be a way to go. But I don't think you can after the nerfs. Shadow needs to be nerfed on healing. Fury needs to be nerfed on healing. Damage of Assassination Rogue needs to be nerfed indefinitely. And damage of Havoc Team Hunter needs to be nerfed. Affliction Warlock, yeah. I actually don't know what you need to do there. There needs to be a lot of work to be put into this that an Affliction Lock doesn't destroy a whole team in seconds. So, yeah. That's basically it for the tier list. Just my 2 cents. Just my initial impressions about the meta. Nothing carved in stone here. Really just the first impressions. It could change with mild nerfs very quickly here. And of course, you could prove me wrong with certain jobs. There could be a Moonkin that just destroys everything. And I just might not have faced it yet. So take that with a grain of salt, with a big grain of salt. I think all of them can be played, except the tanks that can't heal their mates, where the Protection Paladin is the exception. Overall, Arena, all put together, 2v2, 3v3, and Solo Shuffle, I think that's kinda my perception of the meta right now.